Okay, Mongoose Jake here to talk about the next bike. Just took a look at my initial impressions on the Ledge X2, and of course the whole reason of buying it was to compare it directly to this, which I knew was on the way. And I'm going to say this. Obviously, you know, with my nickname being Mongoose Jake, I have some bias. That's not going to be very apparent here, because honestly I think that this is not only a drastic step up from the Ledge, but this is a drastic step forward for pretty much big box bikes in general. My initial impressions are very positive with a couple of caveats. And I'll go over them more in detail, maybe even in their own videos, but I'll hit on them here because it's an initial impressions video without both the good and the bad. But the good is the bike feels solid. And yes, we're just going to let it sit here in front of us for a second. The bike feels solid, and I mean that the best possible way. It doesn't feel cheap. It's a $500 retail price. They had this introductory sale for $448, but it feels very solid. If you've ever rolled a $3,000 bike out of the showroom and took it out for a ride from your local bike shop, if they do test rides, you know how it feels. It feels put together. It feels just solid. Like my Valiant is that, and I've got a Mongoose Canaan that you guys will see at another time. Like, the bikes of that price, they have a feel to them. Everything feels just simply put together and solid. You don't feel rattles and shakes and things like that. This has that feel to it. And it's not just about the weight, because yes, it's an absolute beast on the scale. Because I'm going to do a comparison video here later today, hopefully the wind dies down, where I'm going to compare the two directly. And I'll put them up on the bike scale for you, but they're pushing 40 pounds. And a lot of that has to do with the componentry. A lot of it's not necessarily the frame itself. You get coil shocks work better, but they weigh a lot. Cheaper wheels weigh a lot. Cheaper tires with steel beads and thick casings of their hardest barometer, they tend to weigh a lot. So the weight is an issue, just like with the Ledge. But the bike, outside of two setup issues, went together really well. Actually, three if you count the headset as well. So I'm going to start moving towards it, and we'll go over things now. The headset on this bike, when it came, I mentioned this in my Ledge video, this was so over-torqued the bars wouldn't turn. Of course, you have to mount the bars. But they had torqued the stem down so much that it wouldn't turn. I loosened it. I haven't done my full entire service on it. I just got it rideable and tuned. I will tear this all the way down and go through everything, lubricate everything at every point. And you should do that with every bike. It's been chilly, so I'll admit, I skipped out on it just to get a 30-minute ride in yesterday. But this was so bad, if somebody took it out and tried to ride it, they would destroy the headset within their first couple of rides. I don't know that they'd probably return the bike if this was, in the store and somebody bought it from Walmart that way. They'd probably think something was horribly wrong and their bike was ruined. And sooner rather than later, they'd be right. Moving on to my second major issue, the brakes are actually solid. They really, truly are. We're going to look through the spokes at them until I get the chance to walk around. However, these brakes are solid and well made. They have full adjustments every which way that you need. This front caliper had a major issue with traveling through its radius smoothly. It was actually coming through and getting stuck. And no, it wasn't out of adjustment. I actually adjusted the pads to be as close to the caliper or close to the rotor as possible, and see if it was, a travel issue, like it was traveling too far and maybe jumping out of track. That wasn't the case, because I just did a video on how the mechanical disc brakes work, and you know that if the ball bearings are popping out of their ramps, that would cause it to get jammed. So if you reduce the travel, it would prevent the ball bearings from jumping out. Didn't help. It's literally something in there that had to kind of seat in. I did get it to finally quit doing it, and now they work quite well. And as an added bonus, 180 millimeter rotor. So nice. Better for cooling, better for power, better all around. The only downside to a larger rotor is more weight. And on the rear, also 180. And this caliper actually set up, went really smoothly, real nice. Now, one thing that was also very important, as much so as the headset, is this, of course, is, to my knowledge, the very first big box bike that came with the Shimano Q's group set. And whoever set this bike up at the factory, I know for a fact that they had to have only adjusted it down here. They did not run through the gears. They couldn't have. They would have ruined the derailleur very quickly. They had the B-knuckle adjustment basically unadjusted. The derailleur was sitting all the way up. And the B-knuckle adjustment is this screw here. And it was basically going to eat into, as if you look at the cassette, it's a tight ratio from, this is a, you'd say a wide range, but it's a variable ratio cassette. And Shimano's done this before. But first gear, second gear, third gear, they're all widely spaced, and then you drop down to fourth gear, and then fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. And you have your first sets absolutely tightly spaced, and then wide range, really wide range. Well, by the time I hit third gear, I noticed some issues with the derailleur. Second gear, I heard grinding. Third gear, in first gear, it was going to eat the derailleur because the B-knuckle had it sitting in almost riding the cassette through these gears, and then it was basically bouncing on third and grinding against second. That's something people are going to have to watch out for. If you've never had to do a B-knuckle adjustment, be ready to do it on this, because the people assembling these in the factory may not be familiar with that. So again, service and tune your bike. And only thing to note really that I thought was a bit of a disappointment is the generic junk plastic pedals that are unsealed and they don't even hardly turn in stock form. They're dusty for me doing my little ride yesterday, but we're all going to replace the pedals. It's not really worth hanging up on. But to note, that Suntour XCM, yeah, it may be the starter fork when you get to decent quality bikes, but it feels solid. Again, just like I was saying about the whole bike, it feels solid. And these tires, while I suspect they're the cheapest durometer, wire bead, super heavy, they're going to be okay for the trails I ride, and I probably will actually ride these, except for the front. I'll probably, when my reviewing's done, I'll probably strip this one off, put like a Navegol up front, and then I'll have a spare by taking the front off to save for the rear, because I think that rear, along with like a Navegol in the front, would be a good combination. But true first impressions is that Ozark Trail's got a great bike for $500. It's not without flaws, and those will be more and more apparent as I put more miles on it, especially once it actually gets on true blue and black trails. But having a 148 millimeter boost through axle is going to make the frame feel stiff. And before I sign off here, we're going to do something. I'm going to kick my sunlight stand back, and I want to do something. Let's see how much deflection. That is not much. Man, that is not much. Okay, I'm going to let it roll forward, get back on the sunlight stand. But they got a solid bike. They do. Ozark Trails came up with a very solid bike. Of course, that's just a branding from Walmart, but solid. I know it's a little bit lengthy of a first impressions, but I will go even more in depth as time permits me to get this thing out on the trail. But as of note, I know this is like an extra little thing. Nice touch, Ozark Trail when you're speccing this out. It's not going to be super apparent, but there is a brass shim here for the quick release on the seat post. That is something you don't normally see except on more expensive quick releases. That was nice when I was adjusting to get my height. Very nice, and a sign of somebody paying a little attention. So again, just solid bike. But I will leave it with this, and then I'll catch up with you guys here in another video where I'm comparing the two after I take them for another ride. But we'll be taking a look at this Ozark Trail Slalom and the Ledge X2 quite a bit here over the next couple months. So stay tuned for that. Hope you enjoyed this.